Have you ever wondered why today's music just doesn't hit? You don't feel it in your soul, it doesn't make you tap your foot, and it just doesn't seem to be able to ignite that same primal feeling that the music of the past ignites within you? What if I told you that the reason that you can't connect or feel contemporary music is not because your taste has changed, and it's not because you're getting older? And what if I told you that this reason is so deep that you have to dig to the very depths of your soul and look to the secrets of the universe in order to find out what these reasons are? Well, if you want that reason, strap in, because I'm about to blow your mind. But before we get there, we're going to do a quick listening disclaimer, because a lot of times the things I say get misinterpreted or people change them in their own heads entirely, and I want to make sure you're listening. So please, I beg of you, listen closely. Many people misinterpret what I say because they hear with the ears of the world and not with the ears of their spirit. I speak in symbol, satire, and sometimes words I've created myself. And if you're not listening with your entire self, your conscious mind, your gut, and your intuition, you're going to miss the whole damn point of what I'm saying. This isn't a show. It is the unveiling of the truth. So let's go. A term has recently been spawned, and it is COWORKER music. It's often characterized as being inoffensive, uninspired, lacking depth, and it can also be really annoying. Hence the term coworkers. Most people don't really like their coworkers. They deal with them. And like this, we deal with coworker music. Coworker music in Walmart, coworker music in Starbucks, etc., etc. I define coworker music as Spotify core. It's neutral, it's beige, it's HR approved, and it's always for people who think they're just a little bit alternative, but they're not at all. They cut the sleeves off their shirts, they cut the bottoms of their t-shirts to fit in with everybody, thinking they're alt. But this music is for people who are afraid to feel anything. This music doesn't feel like anything. It's not for driving at midnight. It's not for spiritual warfare. It's for a dentist appointment checkup. It is exactly what people find problematic with Benson Boone, or with what I have dubbed hootin' and hollerin' core. And yes, I created that term. But the point of this music, and the reason people find it irritating if they have even a semblance of soul, is it doesn't challenge anything. It just chills. It doesn't do anything. Now, here's the thing about coworker music. Just like Benson Boone, it's just a little bit off. It's really close, but it's not quite right, and it's hard to put your finger on it. It does everything right on paper. The instrumentation is where it should be. It's what it sounds like. The pop stars look like what they're supposed to look like. The lyrics say the things they're supposed to say, but it's just off. It's almost like a synthetic light. Now, coworker music is exactly the kind of music that Rick Rubin is trying to avoid making. But it is very, very difficult in today's landscape to avoid making this, and I'm going to explain why. Now, Rick Rubin's entire job is to connect to source. I talked about this in part 1 of this multi-part series, and what I describe in these full videos is he's essentially trying to inject this source into the music that he's producing. This source is the archetypal things that resonate within us, and when it is put and placed into music, we resonate with that music. This is because the truth vibrates at a certain frequency. We can feel it. You know when someone is telling the truth. You know when someone is telling a kind of truth. You know when someone is telling you a small fib. And Rick Rubin's job is to pick out these little truths, these little archetypal truths, and litter them throughout the artist's music so that we relate to it more. Coworker music does not have these little truths because it is so corporatized, it's so polished and so cleaned up. Just like I said, it does everything right, but it's still off. And when Rick Rubin is able to work with the correct musicians who are also able to tap into this source, we get something that is very, very special. We get music that taps into these archetypal truths that we can feel and that has that primal instinctual presence. us. And this is because we can feel the truth within the music. We feel the authenticity. Now, in part 2 of this series, I talk about someone I dub the new Crowley. His name is Chris Gabriel, and I've studied a lot of his work, and he actually works with Rick Rubin. Now, he actually works with Rick Rubin on a project called the Tetragrammaton, where he discusses and breaks down different tarot cards. Now, in this video series, I talk about how tarot cards are actually linked to the archetypes, says they are pictographic representations of these archetypes. And Chris, working with Rick Rubin, is aware that they're trying to tap into these archetypal presences within the music. Now, this is where we can start talking about the work of Chris Gabriel. Now, in Chris's own work, he focuses on how the internet actually changes and mutates these archetypal truths. He focuses on it so much, he actually created his own mythology where he talks about it. Now, these archetypal truths have remained relatively stagnant for centuries, for aeons even. But the internet is a device that actually changes these archetypes and mutates them. So if Rick Rubin is trying to inject these archetypal truths into music so us, the consumer, can relate to it more, but these archetypes are being mutated and changed so much so that we don't entirely recognize them anymore, there's going to be a natural disconnect between us and the music we're listening to. The archetypes exist within us, within our psyche, and in my opinion, within our spirits. So if they become disfigured and mutated via the internet, how am I supposed to connect with these archetypal truths that may or may not be in the music in general? Or conversely, if there are mutated archetypes within the music and I am pure and I don't have any mutated archetypes within me, how am I supposed to resonate with that music that is now twisted and distorted, where these truths will not resonate with me? So it's not you. The archetypes are being mutated, they're being changed, and these archetypes are then inserted into the music, and our soul doesn't recognize them. These modern archetypes have become shells of their former self. It's sort of like if you meet up with a friend, and that friend is just off. They're not the same anymore, they're not the same person you knew, they don't have that glimmer or that sparkle in their eye. So you do a little digging, and you find out that maybe they're kind of drinking too much, or doing drugs, or maybe they've joined some sort of strange cult, and that's why they're just not the same. It's the same sort of idea. The archetypal truths within them that made them them are no longer the same. You don't know this person anymore. And the archetypes are the same exact way. They exist within a spiritual point within us. And when the internet changes, works, and twists our perception of reality, it warps these archetypal truths that lie within us and that exist within the universe. So in the past, we've talked about how one of the things that Rick Rubin teaches is that he teaches that you need to empty yourself out and fill yourself up with the universe in order to create good art that resonates with people. But we need to talk about the implications of this and what this actually means. If you empty yourself out, what are you being filled up with? Every single person who reads Rick Rubin's book is not going to be in the same spiritual space. Some people are going to be channeling and filling themselves up with things they probably shouldn't. This is one of the key aspects of having knowledge in general. Having knowledge of how Rick Rubin creates by emptying himself out and filling himself up with the universe is one thing, but understanding that there is a wisdom that has to come along with that of what to fill yourself up with is something different entirely. In part 2 of this series, I talk about how Chris Gabriel is the new quote-unquote Aleister Crowley. I talk about how brilliant Crowley was and all of the things that he learned and knew and how impactful it was on contemporary society. The difference here is that Chris is able to have the wisdom in addition to the knowledge of what Crowley knew. Crowley knew all of these occult teachings, but Chris is able to look at Crowley's life and see how it panned out. This is having knowledge and wisdom. The same can be said with Rick Rubin's teaching. If you don't have the spiritual wisdom to know what it is that you're filling yourself up with when you're trying to create, you end up getting in a lot of spiritual information and spiritual knowledge that you probably shouldn't have. Now, emptying yourself out and filling yourself up is where we get these diseased archetypes. Now in part 2, I also talk about how within Chris Gabriel's mythology, you can go on his website and take a test. And this test will tell you what sort of quote-unquote afflictions or diseases that you have. Now, these diseases are things that are attached to your archetypal truths that lie within you. And if we're getting these diseases from the internet because we're emptying our vessel out, it's going to change a lot of us. We're going to get these diseased and mutated archetypes, or diseased and mutated truths. And this ties into something that's not even necessarily an esoteric or occult concept, but you are a product of what you consume. You are what you eat. And if most of us are consuming this sort of internet trash, this internet filth, when we're reflecting our own art back out, that's the thing that's going to be a reflection of us. The internet is manipulating these archetypes. In a way, we can also look at the internet as its own sort of matrix. It's its own sort of dual reality. And in this reality, it's so powerful that it's able to alter the archetypal truths that exist outside of it. I'm going to briefly discuss Jung's realm of archetypes so that way you can get a picture of where the archetypes actually live within the human psyche. So think of the psyche as an iceberg, and the small tip above the water is the conscious mind. This is your ego, your personal thoughts, and your day-to-day identity. Just below the surface lies your personal unconscious. This is repressed memories, forgotten experiences, and subtle complexes that you might have. And beneath all of this is the vast hidden mass. This is the collective unconscious. And this is where Jung believes that the archetypes live. And the archetypes are these universal inherited symbols like the hero, the trickster, the fool, etc. These archetypes shape our myths, our stories, and our identities, and they are instinctually a part of us whether we are aware of it or not. The deeper you go, the more impersonal and ancient it becomes. Eventually, you touch upon the divine. Now, for Carl Jung, all of this was in the psyche, but for me and my metaphysics, I believe the archetypes exist beneath that in the soul, and that this is a spiritual thing. Now, this gets into my own personal metaphysics that I've been developing over the years. I do have a degree in philosophy, and I do read and study philosophy quite extensively outside of all of this esoteric stuff. And I personally believe that we are actively living out one or two archetypes at a time, depending on the sort of spiritual season that we're in. This kind of ties into the Christian idea of a season as well. I believe all of the archetypes live within us, and I believe all of the archetypes are within us sort of dormant. Think of it as like a closet filled with a bunch of different puppets, each puppet being a different archetype. And the things that we take in, the things that we consume, the media that we watch, they alter each of these dormant archetypes in ways that we don't realize until a time in our life comes about where one of these archetypes becomes activated and becomes front and center in our life. And that's when we can see the true disfigurement of these archetypes actually happening. So COWORKER music is actually a product of these archetypes being altered in ways that we don't recognize. So essentially what I'm saying is that COWORKER music exists because a lot of artists are unable to actually enter the realm of the archetypes where the archetypes exist. And those that are able to enter the realm of archetypes have this inherent issue within them where their archetypes are actually diseased and have been corrupted due to things like the internet, due to having a poor media diet, etc. And the people who do enact with this COWORKER music are people who also have the same diseased archetypes. Essentially, people with pure archetypes cannot relate to COWORKER music because it is impure, and those who have impure archetypes are unable to actually relate to music that has pure archetypes, which means the only people who relate to COWORKER music are the spiritually inept, those who are actually harboring diseased, maladapted, malnourished, horrific, dying archetypes. So you're COWORKERs, which is why it's called COWORKER music. Now, there is an interesting caveat to this COWORKER music, and there is another type of music that I believe is a screaming out, a calling out to the heavens for help. This is meme music, and music that has been memeified. Examples of this would be like Lil B. The memeified music sees this, and it's actually a critique of it. So the archetypes within us are now corrupted. They're diseased. They're mutated due to the internet. That means that parts of our soul has been tainted. So how is this tainted soul supposed to connect with something that is pure and untainted? It cannot. That which is tainted can only relate to that which is tainted, which is exactly how we get this memeified music. Meme music is self-aware. It is cognizant of the fact that it isn't touching upon anything deep. It knows this, and it's the entire point. It is post music in a way. This is Lil B. This is Joey. In a way, this is sort of the Drain Gang. This is so many artists today. And this music is self-aware. It's aware that there's something that's not connecting somewhere. There's no truth frequency that's being latched onto. And so this new sort of subgenre is a critique of that disconnect. The music becomes meta in and of itself. Lil B is the perfect prime example. He's exploited the memeification of music and has created a viral personality and persona that is associated with this. He exploits these caveats in a very smart way. And he became a legend in doing so. The memeification of music is the screaming of the soul for something real. It's crying out, and it's noticing the nihilism that is associated with today's age. And this is why people hire Rick Rubin. This is why Rick Rubin gets the job. He is trying to get to that core essence and to connect along that truth frequency. And he's trying to do so in an age where that is dwindling further and further and further. And speaking of age, we are in a very strange age right now. One that I've actually talked about on this channel before. Now, of course, I'm talking about the age of Lucifer and the age of false light. One that looks very close to the actual source, but it isn't. Doesn't this sound familiar? But before we get there, I want to be very clear. This is just the tip of the iceberg on this topic. We have not even touched upon any of the esoteric concepts yet. If you are interested in the real answers into why these things are happening within music and within the music industry, you can find these answers on my Patreon. Matthew 7:6 says, "Do not give what is holy to dogs. Do not cast your pearl to swine, lest they trample it under their feet and tear you into pieces." I have given all of my content away for free for years. And this is a way for me to sift through who is actually serious about this sacred information. I also do free trials, and as I said, all of my content was free for years. There are over 400 videos there, so there is plenty of content for you to enjoy. I will see you over there.
Time.